To order. Matt, please call the roll.
Senators Black.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Beck.
Here.
Bratton. Berger.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Nicola.
Here.
Nuremberg. You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. I move we go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. We're now in executive session. I move to bring up Senate Bill 62. Do I have a second?
Second.
I do have a second. Senate Bill 62 was heard on February 3rd from Senator Brown. I have a Senate committee substitute ending in .04C, which was distributed last week, and I move for its adoption. Do I have a second? I do have a second. So the bill's in front of us at this time. Is there any discussion concerning Senate Committee Substitute Senate Bill 62? And as I said earlier before we began, Senator Brown's here. If you have any questions, he's willing to ask those. Any discussion? Seeing none, I move. Let's see. All those in favor of adopting the Senate Committee substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? We've adopted the substitute. I move that we do pass Senate Committee substitute, Senate Bill 62. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Matt, please call the roll.
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Beck.
Present.
Bratton. Berger.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Nicola.
Aye.
Nuremberg. No. Your vote 5-1.
By your vote of 5-1, do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 62. Thank you, Senator Brown, for being here. I move that we leave executive session and return to open session. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are out of executive session. First, we're going to listen to Senate Bill 104, presented by Senator Bernskoetter. Senator Bernskoetter, please come forward and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Like the chairman said, I'm Mike Bernskoetter, representing the 6th District. Senate Bill 104 authorizes the Village of Sunrise Beach to impose a sales tax specifically for public safety purposes. Sunrise Beach is a village in Camden and Morgan counties in my Senate district, and that has a population of around 430 residents, but sees a lot of tourism because of its proximity to the Lake of the Ozarks, and it would like to put a 5.5% sales tax increase on the ballot. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the senator? Seeing none, Senator. Is there anyone here testify in favor?
Yes.
Please come forward. And, sir, there's a witness form that you'll need to fill out laying there and turn it back in. You leave, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Chief Scott Craig of the Sunrise Beach Police Department. Over the years, the west side of the lake has grown exponentially, increasingly so with the opening of the community bridge now not having a toll. We see a yearly, daily average traffic flow of around 13,000 cars a day. MoDOT expects that to increase drastically. We're really taxed with providing a premium law enforcement service to all of our visitors during the summer months. Historically, what we've done is supplement our enforcement with part-time workers. With the decrease in law enforcement over the years, we are impossible to find part-time law enforcement to help us during the summer. That leaves us with a large gap. The only way to get these positions filled is to have them full-time. And with having a retail sales tax only, it creates a problem since our revenue only comes in during the summer months. So we really need the tax to hire a couple more officers to get to that 24-hour coverage and to be able to have 2 officers on during critical times. The city has looked at a personal property tax, a real estate tax. However, we pride ourselves on not having a real estate tax, so we'd rather not go that route.
Okay, are there any questions of the witness? Yes, Cinder.
What will this generate per year?
I don't have the exact numbers yet, but my city managers told me it's going to generate $250,000 to $300,000 a year.
Is that going to be sufficient to what your needs are?
Our primary focus is what we hope it to do is hire 2 officers, ensure that our equipment is being replaced and up to date, and provide a little bit more elevated training. And yes, it will complete that.
And what's your staff now?
Right now, we are staffed at 5 officers, including myself.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the witness? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else to testify in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jason Zamkus. I'm a registered lobbyist appearing before you on behalf of the city of Moberly. I've had some conversations with the bill sponsor. We'd like to go on record in support in the hopes that he'd be willing to include us in a Senate committee sub. The city of Moberly has a demonstrable need for additional resources to fund our public safety services. At last count, I think we're about half staffed as it relates to emergency call responders as far as our call center. In addition to that, we're in desperate need of funding for a new fire station in Moberly, and so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions of this witness? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor of Senate Bill 104? Anybody testify opposing Senate Bill 104? Anyone for informational purposes only? Senator, any closing remarks?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next is Senate Bill 152. Senator Brown, please begin when you're ready. You're a regular fixture in this committee. Senator Brown?
I'm a big fan of the committee.
I thought the chairman, but whatever you want to say.
Well, especially the chairman. For the record, my name is Ben Brown, Senator for the 26th District, and I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 152. This bill is aimed at closing the loopholes that have allowed foreign nationals to influence our electoral process. The growing political influence of foreign actors in our elections poses a very real threat to our national and state sovereignty, as well as our right to self-determination. Federal law does technically prohibit foreign influence in quote-unquote elections. However, in 1995, a Supreme Court ruling established that the term elections was only applicable to the funding of candidates and not ballot measures. This overruled decades of campaign finance law. This also created a loophole which has been exploited by foreign billionaires who funnel hundreds of millions of dollars into PACs and committees. This money is then used to exploit the initiative petition process in various states to essentially purchase constitutional amendments. One of the special interest groups that has been front and center exploiting this loophole is the 1630 Fund. Over the last 10 years, this group has spent over $100 million bankrolling ballot measures in over 25 states. According to financial disclosures, their number one donor is a Swiss billionaire by the name of Hans-Jörg Weiss, and I may have completely butchered that, so I'll apologize if that's the case. He has contributed over $243 million to this fund. This is a man who has publicly stated he has no interest in becoming an American citizen, yet has leveraged his considerable wealth to influence American politics for some time. According to a biography written by his own sister, his personal goal is to, quote-unquote, reinterpret the American Constitution in the light of progressive politics. I believe a packet was distributed that provides a little bit more background information on the influence that Mr. Weiss and the 1630 Fund has had on state elections. And if you turn to page 3, you can see a breakdown of the states that this group has been funneling money to since 2014. As you can see, Missouri ranks number 5 on this list with over $6 million spent on ballot measures aimed at changing our state constitution. Just prior to this hearing, I learned that there is actually a more recent edition of this report that includes the expenditures during the 2024 election cycle, and Missouri has now moved up to number 3 on the list. So the report in front of you was published in April of 2024. So the amount spent in Missouri is actually quite a bit higher. According to MEC filings, this group contributed over $7.5 million just since May of 2024 to groups pushing various ballot measures. This bill would end the exploitation of these loopholes in a number of ways. It would specifically prohibit foreign nationals from directly dictating, controlling, or directly or indirectly participating in the decision-making process of a person in regard to their activities to influence a ballot measure, as well as soliciting directly or indirectly the making of a donation, contribution, or expenditure to influence a ballot measure. Upon forming a committee that supports or opposes a ballot measure, the treasurer would be required to file an accompanying certificate declaring that no preliminary activity as defined in the Act was funded directly or indirectly by any contribution or expenditure by a foreign national. Once the committee is formed, it would be prohibited from knowingly or willfully receiving or soliciting contributions from these prohibited sources. This bill also requires an affirmation by donors and entities making expenditures in support or opposition of a ballot measure that they are not a foreign national and that they have not knowingly received funds in excess of $100,000 from prohibited sources within the 4-year period immediately preceding the date of the contribution. Now, there are a few changes I plan on including in a sub that I did not have the time to put in this version, including strengthening of the enforcement mechanism to hold officers of the entity in violation liable as well. And this is to ensure that the measure has teeth, that a committee couldn't violate the law then simply dissolve right after the election without any accountability. I'm also looking into changing the current $100,000 threshold. The aim of this bill is to keep the focus on the big multi-million-dollar donors rather than the guy donating $5 in cash. But I believe a threshold of $100,000 could potentially create loopholes, and I want to ensure there aren't ways that people could work around the system. Short of reforming our initiative petition process entirely, and this would be the best tool at our disposal to defend our Constitution from deep-pocketed out-of-state interests. I ask the committee to join me in supporting Senate Bill 152 in order to ensure that in the future our state's most sacred document is protected from foreign influence. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the senator? Senator Nuremberg.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator. Thanks for being with us today. And yes, you are a frequent flyer here in this committee. So
I'll be back.
Taking a look at this bill, just a few questions for you. First of all, is this legislation from, or can you share with me who drafted the legislation? Is it from an organization, from another state?
We got feedback from a number of different organizations, as well as input from legislators in other states to put together this.
And which organizations helped you with this bill?
You know, I don't have a list of all of them, but I believe some of them are here testifying today, and so I think that would provide you with some of the people that are in support of this bill.
Okay. Few issues, just high level. Some of the definitions are a little bit loose, I think, to say the least. And one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is if a donation comes in from a foreign company, one of the things that the wording here is that it has its principal place of business in a foreign country. Some concerns that I have, and curious on working with you on this in terms of tightening the language, is for many foreign companies that are present and have I'd say even a heavy political influence in the state of Missouri, like InBev, Bayer, Smithfield. It's really tricky to figure out how those corporations' funds aren't commingled. And so I would like to work with you to strengthen that language. Another one is if, in terms of a contribution from an individual, Again, looking at the commingling of funds. So if it's a household and that individual donates 100,000, but their partner or spouse is a foreign national, again, some clarity around that it can be fine that one individual who's a U.S. citizen, despite the fact that their funds may be commingled. And then another issue that I had some heartburn over is if we were to implement this there in section 130, I'm on page 3, 130.176, line 6, there's some language here prohibiting sources within the 4-year period immediately preceding the date. And again, if this were to take effect, I understand once it becomes law and that sign affidavit, all those things are in place. However, if this has not been the case, to go back for previous years, how that would be done. And again, any protections that would be in place if somebody were to make a false affirmation on that affidavit.
Are you speaking to previous election cycles?
Well,
or
yeah, and that's my question. If we were to implement this, is this 4 years, right? So we're here in 2025, so we're going back to funds that were expended in 2021?
I don't believe that it would have a retroactive effect for
Okay.
previous election cycles, but I would be happy to look into that
Okay,
and
just
talk with
wanting-
Senate Research and
Okay,
ensure that's
just
the
wanting that
case.
clarity there. Obviously, understand the intent to get foreign interference out of our elections, but again, just some clarity around obviously recognizing that there's a lot of groups, a lot of individuals who have business across the world, and how do we tighten that language?
Perhaps we could include something that provides an implementation date. Would that address your concerns?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the Senator? Okay, we're going to go through those in favor, those opposition, in that order. Anyone in favor, please come up, testify. Please make sure you have your witness form. If you don't have one filled out, they're up here beside the Senator. Fill that out and drop it off. State your name, ma'am. Please begin.
Chairman Black, members of the committee, my name is Caitlin Sutherland, and I am the founding executive director of Americans for Public Trust, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that works to uncover and publicize outside money and influence in politics and policy, including tracing foreign dark money. I thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 152 to ban foreign nationals from directly or indirectly contributing to ballot measure campaigns. This legislation is crucial to enact, especially since Missouri has seen $13 million in foreign-tied spending influencing your state ballot measures, and I applaud Senator Brown for taking action. While Missouri and federal law already prohibit foreign nationals from influencing elections, the laws are not strong enough. This leaves many loopholes in place that foreign nationals can exploit and still have their money flow into politics. Without strengthening these statutes, foreign money can and is flowing into your state. Just last Friday, important tax records were released that show a Swiss billionaire named Hans-Jörg Wyss funneled nearly $59 million in grants in a single year to liberal dark money groups, including an 8-figure donation to a Washington, D.C.-based group called the 1630 Fund. Mr. Wyss is not a U.S. citizen, but as Senator Brown said, it is his goal to, quote, reinterpret the American Constitution in the light of progressive politics, end quote. According to the New York Times, Mr. Wyss's, quote, political activism is channeled through a daisy chain of opaque organizations that mask the ultimate recipients of his money, end quote. One of those opaque organizations, the 1630 Fund, is the largest beneficiary of Mr. Wyss's money, which now totals almost $280 million over many years. After receiving his foreign cash, 1630 Fund has turned around and poured $130 million into ballot issue campaigns in 25 states, including Missouri. The 1630 Fund and their foreign money has been bankrolling ballot measures in the Show Me state for years. In 2018, they contributed $4.8 million to a campaign to raise the state's minimum wage, making them the single largest donor. Just last year, when another initiative to raise the state's minimum wage and mandate paid sick leave made the ballot, 1630 was again the #1 donor to the campaign, contributing $3.6 million to the effort. Also last year, they dumped over $4.6 million into the campaign to enshrine abortion rights in your state's constitution, making them the #1 donor to that group as well. That's a grand total of $13 million in foreign-backed spending to influence your state's policies and constitution. We must also remember that as Mr. Visa's money flows through the 1630 Fund, there is absolutely nothing stopping China or Qatar from taking advantage of these foreign influence loopholes. I urge you to work to strengthen the laws regarding foreign nationals influencing ballot measures and encourage you to support Senate Bill 152. Thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Senator Bratton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first, thank you for your testimony and for putting together this information. I think most people in the state of Missouri already have in their mind's eye that this is already illegal, so I think I would love to see polling on, regardless of political persuasion, I'd love to see what the polling is, knowing these sorts of numbers on where people would be favorable towards a bill like this or not. Because I would personally say it'd be something in the 80th percentile, knowing that we have this sort of foreign influence in our elections. So thank you for the information, and I appreciate your testimony.
Any further questions? Senator Nuremberg.
Good afternoon. Can you share again the organization you're with?
Americans for Public Trust.
Americans for Public Trust.
Americans for Public Trust.
Okay, and where are you based?
We're based in Virginia.
Okay, and where are you from?
I'm originally from Michigan.
Okay, and do you live here now in Missouri?
I do not.
Okay, well, welcome to the great state
Thank
of
you.
Missouri.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor? Please state your name and begin, ma'am, when you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Catherine Gonzalez. I'm the Director of State Advocacy for Heritage Action for America. We are a national grassroots organization with 2 million conservative activists nationwide, including thousands of Missourians. Heritage Action supports Senate Bill 152. We thank Senator Brown for introducing this legislation to ensure that Missouri's elections are free from the corrupting influence of foreign funding. Free and fair elections are the bedrock of our republic, and every Missourian should have confidence in the security and integrity of our election system. Heritage Action lobbies alongside of and on behalf of grassroots across the country, including here in Missouri, and protecting Missouri's elections from outside influence is top of mind for the grassroots. They're keenly aware of the fact that the integrity of our government and protecting liberty hinge upon the ability to conduct transparent, accurate, and fair elections. As mentioned, the U.S. federal government already rightly limits the participation of foreign individuals, entities, and governments in national political campaigns, and preventing external financial influence from steering election outcomes towards foreign interests rather than those of the United States should be a priority at the state level. And so Senate Bill 152 ensures that Missourians' voices are not diluted, and the decisions about Missouri's constitution and laws are based on the voices of its citizens, not foreign billionaires. Additionally, foreign meddling in the United States is not a hypothetical problem. As mentioned in the previous conferee, states like Missouri are right to address it. And Missouri is not alone in its endeavor to push back. In fact, in 2024, Ohio already passed a measure banning direct and indirect foreign contributions. And as of today, several states across the country are considering very similar legislation as proposed here in Senate Bill 152 to protect their state from foreign funding. Finally, in George Washington's 1796 farewell address, he cautioned that, quote, foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of Republican government, end quote. And with growing geopolitical threats like the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, Missouri is wise to ensure the integrity of its elections and guard against the influence of foreign actors that could seek to undermine Missouri's interests. So we ask you to support Senate Bill 152. We would welcome any strengthening measures as well as previously mentioned, and we thank you for your time and attention to this important issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions of this witness? Senator Nuremberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. And so Heritage Action is, where are they based?
Washington, D.C., but we have regional offices across the country.
Okay. And where are you based?
I'm based in Kansas City, actually, on
Wonderful.
the Kansas side.
Well, that's okay. We'll take that. Even though you're on the dark side over there.
Oh,
But,
gosh.
okay, so Heritage across the nation and wanting to see what's unique to Missouri here. Is there any parts of this bill that you have identified that are unique statute language that you haven't seen introduced elsewhere?
I would have to, so my understanding of the states across, we're registered to lobby in 30 states, so I oversee our national landscape, and we're in several states. If I'm understanding your question correctly, all of the bills in the states that I mentioned that are considering legislation, all of them are different in the actual text. I don't know if that answers your question, but I can give you a list.
Based on their ethics requirements and things, I'm sure that they're
Sure, yeah, tailored to their state.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
Any further questions? Senator Brunt.
Well, just to kind of go on that vein, I mean, just to clarify, I mean, we get outside groups or out of any, partisan group or whatever, whether it's left or right, we then give it to our drafters here and they draft it to Missouri law. So, I mean, I appreciate your work, but I just wanted to clarify that every bill we get, in essence, goes through our drafting process to ensure that it's in line with Missouri law. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions of this witness? Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else testify in favor? Sam, do I need to go through the witness form?
I've already turned it in online, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Samuel Lee, registered lobbyist with Campaign Life Missouri, to go on record in support of Senate Bill 152. You've had two excellent witnesses and an excellent presentation by the sponsor, who we're very grateful has sponsored this legislation. So we're not going to repeat that. I would just say, based on some of the questions, is that there are 9 states that have enacted some sort of legislation along these lines. It's listed on my written testimony, which I will send to you, everyone, in email, so you can click on the link and you can look it up that way. But that's based on what Ballotpedia suggests, and as diverse as the political spectrum from California to South Dakota. This is legislation that is supported by liberals, conservatives, people all political spectrums, even the Biden-Harris administration, and it's, again, in this committee testimony I've written here, encouraged Congress to pass legislation to ban foreign funding of ballot measures. Foreign funding of candidates is prohibited, but as the sponsor said, the FEC, based on some previous court rulings, found that the current law does not prohibit funding of these ballot measures and just of candidates from foreign entities and foreign governments. Lastly, I would say that in terms of support, Senator Bratton, you asked, there was a survey, a poll taken in 2022 from the University of Maryland, and it found that nearly 80% of U.S. voters, you're pretty spot on there, so it was a good guess. And in fact, it broke it down by partisan, said 77% of Republicans, 84% of Democrats, and 74% of independents support legislation along this line. So this is truly bipartisan, and I can't imagine that there would be anybody in the Missouri Senate or the legislature which would have any opposition to this. And we're certainly in favor of it in light of what happened in this past election with Amendment 3 and this huge amount of foreign influence, which I'm sure voters were absolutely clueless that they were involved in pushing this legislation. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any questions of this witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Informational purposes only. Senator Brown, do you have any closing remarks?
Just once again, I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay. All right. Taking over for the chairman for Senate Bill 271. Senator, proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator Bratton and committee, for listening to Senate Bill 271. Senate Bill 271 prevents political subdivisions from adopting the National Fire Protection Association 150 building code requirements for fire suppression sprinkler systems in newly constructed agricultural buildings that house livestock. This bill represents to the NFPA's recent addition of a recommendation mandating sprinkler systems in new livestock barns. While the NFPA, a nonprofit organization that develops fire, electrical, and building safety codes, offer many reasonable safety guidelines, NFPA 150 would have significant negative impact on the agriculture community. In recent years, some Missouri political subdivisions have attempted to impose restrictive regulations on livestock producers, including efforts to limit or ban certain farming practices. Although no counties have currently adopted NFPA 150 for agricultural buildings, this bill aims to prevent future mandates that could severely impact Missouri's livestock industry. Other states, such as North Carolina and Florida, have already passed laws exempting livestock buildings from sprinkler requirements, recognizing the financial and practical burdens they impose. If Missouri counties were to adopt these fire codes, the cost of compliance could place a heavy strain on farmers. While livestock producers prioritize animal safety, mandatory sprinklers in barns are neither practical nor economically viable. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the bill, Senator. Now, if memory serves me correctly, I know when I was in the House, we dealt with this same scenario, but with residential homes. Does that prohibition still exist? You're just piling on top of, or did they come with new regulation to add to homes and to livestock barns, do you know?
My understanding with what I've read, this 150 building code requirement is a suggestion for livestock facilities, for animal facilities. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, this totally makes sense. I mean, because, I have a 40 by 60 barn. Imagine if I had to put, water lines running at the top of my roof. I'd have to spend thousands of dollars in additional heating and everything else just to make it to where you could have those, let alone to be able to put livestock in them or horses and they were actual working stables so yeah, that's completely nonsensical. So I appreciate this legislation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? See none. Anyone to testify in support? Please remember to fill out a witness form.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Brent Hempill. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Pork Association. Senator Black did a magnificent job in responding to this. The NFPA 150 was adopted last fall. It specifically went and attempted to add ag buildings to the requirement to have a sprinkler system. This would be hugely catastrophic. In fact, the national pork producers filed an appeal with the NFPA and it was denied. And so it is a standing recommendation by this national organization. Our fear is, and the purpose of this bill is that we are fearful of political subdivisions such as fire protection districts adopting this national code Thereby, it would require us to then have a sprinkler system in our ag buildings. To your question, this has nothing to do with residential in any way, shape, or form. This is an attempt to specifically limit it to ag buildings that house livestock, even though this section, and I would encourage the committee to consider adding counties within this framework because it's currently only limited to Chapter 321, which is fire protection districts, and grants them a very broad authority to adopt fire recommendations and building codes. But if a county comes in over top of a fire protection district, a county then would have control over that recommendation. So we would like to see the language tweaked to include counties. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? See none. Anyone else testifying in support? Please come forward. Please remember to fill out a witness form. Groundhog Day.
Good afternoon, Emily Leroy on behalf of Missouri Farm Bureau. We also want to go in support of this legislation and thank Senator Black for filing it. Brent mentioned that National Pork Producers challenged us. AFBF, the American Farm Bureau Federation, also challenged us for the reasons already stated, that it's economically and practically cost prohibitive to adopt these sprinkler systems, and happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. Well, I would just, most people think with these fire protection districts, they're meant to oversee, putting out fires in the communities, not enacting these sorts of onerous regulations. So I think there's a misconception even what the authority that they have. So thank you for your testimony. Any questions? See none. Anyone else testify in support? Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jason Zamkis, registered lobbyist, appearing before you on behalf of the Missouri Corn Growers Association. For the reasons previously stated, we'd like to go on record in support.
Any questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else testify in support? Please come forward.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ben Travis with the Missouri Soybean Association. I think the senator and those testifying before me have covered this well. We also would like to go on record in support. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? See none. Thank you. Anyone else to testify in support? Please come forward.
Hi, Senator. Hello. Hi, Senator. Senators, I'm David Clarich. I'm today appearing on behalf of 271 for a completely unrelated issue to the legislation that's pending before you. I've asked Senator Black to consider adding a section that modifies 321-290. That is an issue that has arisen. I represent fire protection districts, some fire protection districts, and 321-295 that I have asked the senator consider, and I'm asking you to consider, deals with a situation that arose a few years back where a fire protection district board that I currently represent replaced a prior fire protection district board that was removed by recall. And one of the situations that we found out had occurred is that the Fire Protection District Board was self-dealing. They had taken fire district equipment and fire protection district vehicles and sold it or given it to themselves. That was then turned around and either given to relatives and or sold at market at your expense. This is your money that was going out the door. So when I found out about this, I was going, well, that's criminal. And I said, well, it's not. It probably should be, but it's not. It is definitely self-dealing. So this would actually codify a statute that would prohibit the self-dealing. You can't take those properties and self-deal. You can't give it to yourself. You can't give it to your own members. And so for me, it was a logical step, but because of the subject matter that the senator has and because of the importance of this particular issue, I wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm hoping that you'll consider it favorably as you're moving any legislation that might relate to 321 or fire protection district boards because it's that important.
No, thank you.
And just one last thing. Another fire protection district chief, the second largest fire protection district in the state, and I was talking to him about it, he said his biggest concern about things like this is that it's like he called it a splash effect. If one if it happens to one district, then all districts are impugned. It's kind of like in the legislature. If one legislator behaves badly, then all legislators are deemed in the public's eye to have behaved badly. And that's something that we just simply want to avoid. And this is, to me, it's logical.
I would agree. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you for
Thank
your
you,
testimony.
Senators.
Anyone else to testify in support? Anyone to testify in opposition? Seeing none. Informational purposes only. Seeing none. Senator, closing remarks.
Thank you, Senator. Why don't you adjourn us?
All right. Well, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 271. I'm making a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.